this is the way it is. Their governments are not willing to accept these people as, legitimate individuals and uphold their rights. Then you don't get to play with the big boys. You stay in the kids' corner and you wait until your country learns to progress past this semi-Neanderthalic mindset. So Rainbow Six, from what I understand, has had a pretty sick. They're like, it's like their largest event of the year, right? Rainbow Six did, but they sort of announced their plans for the coming year, and amongst those plans, they announced some of the venues or the locations that they would be going to. So, it looked like the standard stuff, like fairly reasonable locations. But one that stood out to us was Dubai or the United Arab Emirates. Now, it wouldn't be the first esports tournament that's been done in the Emirates. I think ESL did an ESL Pro League finals in the Emirates, and I didn't go to that. I think I casted the B stream though, and I heard a lot of stories from the talent, and it was an experience, which we'll get onto in just a second. But look, I mean, first of all, you have a member of the LGBT, you have members of the LGBTQ plus community on the Rainbow Six talent team. So that's obviously an issue there already, because as you may not know, the Emirates is known for a lot of human rights violations, especially pertaining to those that identify as LGBTQ plus. So like criminalizing homosexuality, floggings, fines, deportation, chemical castration, forced conversion therapy, honor killings, vigilante execution, and more. Here's a bit of a readout of what LGBT rights look like in the Emirates. Not fucking good, by the way. Can't change gender. You have no protections against being discriminated by employers, by people for housing, just in general. You can't adopt. Conversion therapy is legal. Not good. So, obviously ammunition is one of the first to sort of point this out. I don't know if they were the first, but she says, hey, like, what's going on here? This precipitated a large petition on change.org, as many of them are, where, it was like, hey, hello, why are you having a major in the United Arab Emirates? Like, you can't really do this. Yeah. And it turns out, Scott, that this was a pretty effective way of getting attention.
Yeah, and like you said, the day it dropped, everyone jumped on it, and certainly the people that are active casters and crew and associated jumped on, and Ammunition has been an ambassador of Rainbow Six, plays it, big streamer in her own right, keeps an eye on the competitive thing. Actually, really good FPS gamer in general. She's all over the FPSs, Tarkov, Overwatch, this one, and I think her having that bigger voice. She's also, not a straight white woman in that sense, so she fits into this. She goes to these majors as an ambassador, she's
very involved in
this game. She's not on-air talent in the sense of a esports caster, but like she goes and like meets and greets and all that. She's a big part of the community.
Yeah,
she's definitely a big part of the community.
They literally have on-air talent that also are LGBT QIA plus. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want to do? You want to fucking send your broadcasting to a country where their lives could be literally endangered based on their sexual identity? Like, sorry, what? Like, who thought of this?
Yep.
What the fuck?
And it's almost safe to say.
People...
I mean, is it not safe to say that now in 2022, you could almost throw a rock at any decent-sized esports company, TO, production company, you're going to hit someone who's not a straight person, right? Yes. And that's a great thing. That's a fucking great thing. And again, public pressure came down hard and quick, much like it did with Neom and the League of Legends sponsorships, as well as that Blast sponsorship. Because we've talked about this region and the issues with human rights several times on the show, ESL, Saudi Arabia, etc. So they did flip. They backtracked. They put out a press release fairly quickly.
Hard to read.
Hard to read. Really hard to read. Really hard to read.
So look, they word this as if this was like a payoff, or not payoff, but like a celebration of the, I'm sure, thriving Middle East and North African region for Rainbow Six Siege. I'm sure there's like a thriving scene there. And I'm sure that there's many players, fans in that region that are deserving of being able to host an event. The event was supposed to be in Abu Dhabi, by the way, which is, I think, worse. It's a lot less progressive, I think, a city than the Emirates from Dubai, from what I understand. But so I don't know if it was the case of like a government throwing fat money at this. Like, there is a large scene for this, and it's not uncommon for game developers to service those scenes by creating events in those locales as a celebration of what they've done. But like, when will tournament organizers understand that the core ethics and values of these countries and their governments are not compatible with very reasonable Western values and ethics? You cannot cooperate with these entities. You cannot put your players, fans, or broadcast talents' lives at risk, like by having them at this kind of event. I'm sorry, and I really feel bad for the fans over in these regions that don't have any say in government policy or the enforcement of this discrimination that absolutely exists there. Leveled, of course, at members of the LGBTQIA community, but this is the way it is. Their governments are not willing to accept these people as legitimate individuals and uphold their rights. Then you don't get to fucking play with the big boys. You stay in the fucking kids' corner and you wait until your country learns to fucking progress past this semi-Neanderthalic fucking mindset. You don't get to participate in the parties and the fun events that the West has until you sort this shit out. And I think honestly, I understand that culturally this is very difficult, and even if you live in the MENA region and you find this reprehensible, that it's very dangerous for you as an individual to speak out about it. I'm sorry, that's tough, but there should be no reason for Western esports organizations to try and collaborate with entities that are controlled by these governments, because they're generally more authoritarian sort of countries as well. So the governments have much more of a say in where the money goes and how events and tourism works in these places. There should not be any advocacy. There should not be any engagement between these entities until this shit gets fixed. Full stop.
I don't mean to do a whataboutism on you, but I'm going to bring up the fact that it seems like this fight gets fought when it comes to mainstream sports washing that these countries are doing. But that didn't stop F1 from going there. It's not stopping professional golf from going to that region. It's not stopping the World Cup from going to that region. So
that's true.
Do you think it's also a matter of well, fuck, if and I know we don't like the real versus us, but if what we've always looked up to, sports, is bowing to this region and the money of this region, who are we to fight back, right? Or are we exactly the ones to fight back?
Ago. No, we stopped looking up to sports years ago. I mean, fuck me. The last time anybody took the last time anybody that took the attempt to emulate traditional sports seriously was the Overwatch League, and we have a fucking lexicon of learnings from that attempt that indicates to us that it's not a valid approach with esports, with how globalized it is, the structure it is, and obviously the people in esports have demonstrated now on more than one occasion that they can force a developer to change their mind on these things. You know what I mean? There's a precedent set where the people can actually vote with their feet and have an impact. Now, in the case of F1, that might not be the case. I also want to suggest that the age group that watch F1 may be less politically mobilized and less inclined to actually cause a stir about these kind of issues. I'll use baseball as an example, but it's much more of an older person sport.
Yeah,
maybe we are
maybe we are the demographic that can be loud enough and make the big enough stink, because the traditional fan bases of these other sports, golf, obviously not a young, energetic, happy, super vibrant young sport in the sense of, because they're dealing with it too. Phil Mickelson just got himself in a whole bunch of fucking trouble for some shit he said. Anyway, but then it gets, so they did give an announcement. And I think you hit on a really valid point that I don't know how we solve. Gaming's global, right? So it's safe to say the region, or any region that has any of these kind of political conflicts that you don't agree with, China, Russia, huge gamer bases of people that, for lack of a better word, are doing nothing wrong but being gamers like us. So how are they just shit out of luck until their country's governments change? And they got to keep coming to where it's cool, because obviously Rainbow Six, part of this big, long press release was, hey, we really care about this region. We had a lot of communication with this region. This region is growing. We're trying to nod to the region, right? So obviously the gamers are all like, it's not us, right? We are the young. Sure. We want to. So do they just keep losing until they vote out? Well, vote out is not even the right word in some of these countries. So, I don't know how you fix it.
I think, yeah. So I think you have to, in my opinion, it really only makes sense to work domestically in those regions. Like you can't. I mean, I just don't think involving talent or putting anyone in a position where they could be persecuted, in a different country is acceptable. I just think you have to avoid that possibility at all costs. I think you should still serve the fan bases in these countries, but no, I would suggest that if there is such a grievous incompatibility between the values that the countries and the governing bodies ultimately possess, then I would consider restricting their participation. This happens I think this happens in the Olympics a lot as well. It is a scenario where you get told you can't play in the pool because of X, Y, or Z. It is exclusionary, but I think that the only way to sort of temper this, the harsh reality of this, is to maybe double down on serving those fans domestically. Will you get a global event? No, but hopefully you can get a large amount of activations, a large amount of uh, you know, liveliness in your local and domestic scenes. And you have a branch of Ubisoft that is based in MENA that
Yeah.
should be empowered to do so.
And then what if, and just what if the people involved in the actual event in said country, what if the government, what if it isn't a sports washing? Because obviously, like, we know the Saudi Arabia thing in ESL, the fund is
Yeah,
properly
this might not
public.
be sports washing, by the way.
Huh?
Yeah,
What was that?
this might not be sports washing. This Rainbow Six
Yeah,
thing,
that's what I'm
because
like.
again, like we said, we don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, what are they still shit out of luck if everyone involved in the event is just capitalistic people trying to throw a cool event in a shitty country, but there's no government sponsorship, there's no money, they're not getting the venue for free from the city.
Mhm.
Like, then is it? I mean, I know you can't necessarily go down the road of proving this every time, but like, because now you're hurting possible business growth. But I guess again, you have to draw the line somewhere. But then it gets really
I
weird
think.
because this morning the line got drawn like 2 states over, right?
I
Like,
mean, yeah, this is very concerning. I think
'cause that's very closer to home
there's
for
nothing
sure.
wrong, by the way, with nothing wrong with asking the questions that you're asking. By the way, I'm almost certain though you'd probably come to the same conclusion as I have. Eventually, I think it's kind of hard to see another way around it when people's safety is at risk. But here's a great example of people's safety being put at risk domestically. Um, Greg Abbott, who is he? Attorney General of Texas,
Governor.
someone like that.
Governor.
He's basically telling. Right, thank you. Whatever. I mean, look, turds all look the same to me. He's officially directed Family and Protective Services to begin investigating all trans children in Texas and prosecuting their parents as child abusers. He's also instructed all teachers, doctors, and caregivers to begin reporting on any trans students they see. So, broadly, this is an assertion that allowing your child to, I guess, explore their gender identity. This is a really divisive issue. I mean, really, this is like one of those fucking annoying hills that Ben Shapiro, for example, just has to die on, as an example of like just a fucking irritating conservative pundit. The implication here is that parents are harming their kids, allowing them to experience freedom of gender expression, I guess, and asking. Mandatory reporting is very common, right? So when I worked with young people as a youth leader in my younger years, I had to take a course of mandatory reporting that if I witnessed any evidence of abuse in these children, I had to report it to the authorities, right? It was
Sure.
I was obligated to do that by law. So basically allowing your child to transition or to explore gender identity, whatever, is being categorized as abuse. I think that is one of many, but one of the most egregious corollaries of this dictate.
Yeah, again, this news this morning is actually par for the course for this asshole, Greg Abbott. Fuck you, Greg Abbott. From this pandemic handling in Texas to the power grid. Again, my dad used to have a saying, didn't make it up. I got 2 words for you, and they're not "let's dance." And they generally were "fuck you." Were the 2 words. Yeah, this is it's kind of funny because we're noodling this show about something that's happening halfway around the world, and like, do we use because Texas is a very big esport fucking state, right? So, and I'm not trying to be like Mr. Contrarian, like, well, what about? But like, if we have a voice and we care about this kind of shit and we can activate our voice, should we use that voice against shit like this when Florida and Texas and even my lovely little state of Arizona has some pretty fucked up laws? Should we not support events there? Should we not? Because obviously there's no esports events in Arizona, but there absolutely are esports event every month in Texas, right? So do we try to use some force for good? I don't know, right? I'm not a woke warrior in that sense, but this is fucked up. And Texas is already fucked up with some abortion shit. And what I would say, because it's very similar to Arizona, Texas in some regards. Like the cities in Arizona are very much flipped, right? We're no longer fucking Goldwater Republicans, and where the city populations are the ones that flipped this state this year, right? And I think Texas, your big cities are very progressive, very fucking not Greg Abbott, but surrounded by ruralness and lots of ruralness, just like Arizona, and they have a big vote still. And so this kind of shit makes the entire state of Texas look like assholes, but you go talk to someone in Austin, you go talk to someone in downtown Dallas, they're like, fuck this guy, right? Big fucking state. And that's why and we get into it here in Arizona, because Phoenix is almost like not part of chunks of Arizona, right? I mean, California has it a little bit in the central region versus the LA. Anyway, but back to the topic at hand. Do we care enough to do something about this kind of legislation and this kind of bullshit in our own country?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really a matter of opinion, isn't it? I would say yes. I mean, I would say, like, I don't vote. I cannot vote in the United States, so I cannot affect change at a governmental level in that sense. I think this has definitely been like a banner issue for a lot of conservatives as well. And I think it's funny because what conservatives are suggesting is happening, I don't think it generally happens. It's like conservatives are suggesting that like parents are trying to indoctrinate their children in this sort of I don't know, this sort of weird, wacky world where they should, they can be whatever gender they want, and just give them, like, just fill their heads with crap kind of thing. Where, like, as a father, I know, am I going to raise my son and go like, all right, you're wearing a dress today? Like, obviously not. But if my son, once they're old enough to understand like what their gender identity is, or start to explore it, says to me, look, I don't think, I don't think that I feel comfortable as as a male or whatever, then I mean, you have to take that seriously. But the conservatives are basically saying kids shouldn't be able to make these decisions about themselves until a certain age, and they should have no agency in this regard. It's a really difficult issue. Texas is trending blue, as Final Sights does point out.
Yep.
So hopefully we can see stuff like this repealed. But there's a problem, and I'd like to see what the federal government can really do about this. I don't know. But I think this is like, what was the word? Is it fascist? Like, these people are like now like dobbing on parents, teachers, and everyone that like they're now parents of trans kids are being labeled as abuse. It's like, this is fucking extremely concerning. It's just really fucking scary. Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Frightens the shit out of me.
Yep. No doubt. And again, is he up for re-election right now? Final. How much more time does this guy have running this state, possibly?
Oh God, I don't know.
Because I think there is an election. I think Texas has an election in March, but I'm not sure he's on. I'm not sure if governor is, or is this actually part of a message to his base?
Vote for a recall.
Oh, he's up for re-election.
Do we have?
Yeah, this is a prime example of him trying to talk to that part of Texas.
Yeah.
Right? To keep the vote.
Yep.
Oh, fuck this
Fucking
dude.
hell.
Fuck this dude.
Well, I hope it blows up in his face. But yeah, I think it should be like something that's very concerning, because like, what's to stop fucking Ron DeSantis from trying to do the same thing? After he sees this, you know what I mean? Like those sort of states with very conservative sort of government.
Perfect time for like Castro and Hex to get activated in Texas and get all those fan bases activated to get voter turnout up. Like, get this fucker out of office. Use that social media campaign. Vote him out, Castro. Mobilize the Texas young gamers.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully at the voter level something can be done here. But it makes sense now, of course. It's not uncommon for like a very sort of volatile issue like this to be sort of pushed close to election time.
Yep.
But you really do. I think the moderate conservatives are going to struggle to get on board with this, though, as well. Like, this is definitely policy that may alienate people that are more centrist, and it's stray towards the middle. And in my humble opinion, this is absolutely like aimed at the Judeo-Christian voter base for sure. So, yeah, hopefully this just falls to shit in the guy's hands. That's all I'll say on that one. But yeah, I mean, look, circling back to the idea, do we sort of boycott this kind of thing? Kind of, yeah. Yes, because cities like Arlington, for example, are making large investments in trying to attract esports investment to their locale, and they should be going to this dickhole, being like, "Hey, you're fucking up our enterprise here by with these policies."
Yeah.
There should be like mayors and sort of community leaders should be the ones that are lobbying for this kind of thing to not happen at all. I hope that the larger cities can prevail. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, especially with so many streamers like taking over Austin. It's like Twitch fucking Southwest in Austin right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It is.